Welcome to this presentation on the Access Resource Advisor from the U.S. National Science Foundation Access Program. Let's jump right in. For this presentation, let's define an access resource as a computing system that's part of the U.S. national cyber infrastructure. Access has many different resources, and some are designed to solve specific kinds of problems. For many prospective users, this creates a problem. How can you determine which resource is best for your particular project? One solution is the Access Resource Advisor, or ARA, which is a tool designed to help you identify the resources that are best suited for your particular project. It can be accessed by going to access-ci.org, going from there to Support, there clicking the Tools menu, and then selecting Access Resource Advisor from that menu. Let's see how to use the ARA. I encourage you to follow along on your computer, pausing the video when necessary. From the Access portal, access-ci.org, go to Support. There, click the Tools menu, and then choose Access Resource Advisor, ARA, from that menu. The ARA is basically a form that you fill in and submit. Depending on your answers to the form's questions, the tool will generate a list of access resources, ranked from best to worst in terms of matching your intended use. The first question is, have you used a supercomputer before? If you're unfamiliar with any of the terminology the form uses, try hovering over the info box at the end of the question. The pop-up that appears may resolve your issue. For example, the info box at the end of this first question defines the term supercomputer for us. Let's work through some scenarios. In our first scenario, let's assume we're a computer scientist and our research area is artificial intelligence. But let's say we've never used a supercomputer before. If we were an experienced supercomputer user, we could answer yes here. And if we'd used any of those systems, we could check them. But let's assume, again, that we have not. The second question, we could first respond by saying yes. The form asks if there are any user interfaces we're comfortable using. If we've used Open On Demand, we could check that. If we've used RStudio, we could check that, and so on and so forth. But again, for our scenario, let's assume no. Let's then proceed to the next question. What's your general field of research? Here's where we'd specify computer scientist or artificial intelligence. And the second menu choice here is artificial intelligence. So we'll choose that. Do we need to store data? If we're AI researchers, we probably do. So let's click yes. How much long-term storage do you think we'll need? Well, let's suppose we've got lots of data to be training our AI system with. Let's suppose it's more than 10 terabytes. Approximately how much temporary storage do you think you'll need? I have no idea, so I'm going to say I don't know. And approximately how much memory? Well, if we've got lots of data, let's choose the maximum here, more than 512 gigabytes. The next question asks what scientific libraries or software packages we'll need. For AI, we might want PyTorch, or perhaps TensorFlow. Is there a graphical component to our research? Let's say no. Do we need GPUs, which are graphics processing units? AI models are typically trained and run on GPUs, so let's say yes. The form gives us a list of different kinds of GPUs. If we know a particular one, like, for instance, the NVIDIA A100, we could choose that. Otherwise, we could always click I don't know. Finally, do we need a virtual machine? Let's say no to that. When we click the Send button at the bottom of the form, ARA pops up a window with its recommendations. Based on my answers, ARA's top recommendations are Delta at Illinois, Anvil at Purdue, and ACES at Texas A&M. For any of these resources, we can click on its name to see why ARA recommended it, and a short description of that resource. You can also click its resource page link, which opens a new tab in our browser and gives us more information about that resource. We could also, if we want even more details, we could click the documentation link. That gets us that resource's documentation page, which has all the details available about it. You can click the name again to close that up, and we can do the same thing for any of these other resources that it listed. What's the little hourglass icon to the right of the resource's name? Access resources are shared among many users, so instead of running a program directly, you typically submit it to a job scheduler, which queues it and then runs it when everything it needs is available. If you hover over the resource hourglass icon, a pop-up appears that tells how long on average a program spends in that resource's job scheduler queue before it gets to run. Think of it this way. The time a program spends waiting in the queue is a proxy for how busy the resource is. If two resources both offer the hardware and software you need, but one is busier than the other, has a longer wait time, you might want to choose the less busy resource, since it will likely get you your results more quickly. So Delta, the average wait time the past 30 days has been about a little over 13 hours. Anvil CPU, 1.22 hours. Anvil GPU, 11 hours. ACES, the average time, 1 minute. We can also click the See More to see other resource possibilities. And again, you can do the same kinds of things with them to see more information about them. The ARA also provides direct links to request an allocation, and if you already have an allocation, to exchange credits from your allocation for time on a given resource. Finally, at the very bottom of the form are links to view all the resources in Access, as well as a link where you can give feedback about the ARA. We can close that. That's the end of our first scenario. Let's clear the form and then scroll back to the top again. In our second scenario, let's suppose we're a geneticist who's never used a supercomputer. We'll answer the first question, no. Suppose we want a friendly user interface. Let's answer yes and choose Open on Demand. For a field of research, we can click. There's bioinformatics. That seems like a pretty reasonable answer for a geneticist. Let's assume we'll need to store lots of genomic data. Let's say yes, and let's choose the maximum amount. Let's specify the max amounts for temporary storage and RAM as well. What scientific libraries will we need? Well, let's specify BLAST here. And there's BLAST Plus, and there's two separate names for it here. Let's put both of those. Is there a graphical component? Let's say no. Do we need GPUs? Let's say no. Do we need virtual machines? Let's say no. We submit the form. Now we see that it's recommending ACES at Texas A&M, Anvil at Purdue, and Jetstream 2 at Indiana. As before, we can explore these options, see which has the longer wait times, open them up, see why it recommended them, and so make a more informed decision. ACES has wait times of 1 minute, so it seems like it would be a good choice. Let's clear the form and try one more scenario. This time, let's suppose I'm a linguistics researcher who's never used a supercomputer. Suppose I would like a user-friendly interface, but none of these look familiar. So I'll just leave them all blank. For my field of research, if I enter linguistics, it doesn't recognize that. So if we click in the box, scroll down and try to find something close, well, humanities maybe? That seemed like a reasonable approximation for linguistics. So let's choose it. Do I need to store data? Yes. But maybe I don't know how much storage or RAM I'll need, so I'll just leave those blank. Which scientific libraries or software packages do I need? Perhaps I know that my fellow linguistics researchers use an application called Flex. I type that in and it finds that. And maybe I don't know the answers to any of these other questions, so I'll leave them blank also. When I hit send, the ARA generates its list of recommendations, and as before, I can explore each of these in detail to decide which one I want to use. The more information you can give to the ARA, the better its recommendations. But many of the questions on the form can be left blank if you don't know the answers. Let me quickly repeat. You can use the Give Feedback link at the bottom to give us feedback about the ARA. That's the ARA and how to use it. Let's return to our presentation. To summarize what we just learned, Access provides a variety of different resources. Different kinds of research have different needs, so depending on your project, some resources may be more appropriate for you than others. The ARA is a tool we have created to help you identify which resources are best suited for your project. We welcome any feedback you might have about this presentation. Please submit it by going to access-ci.org/about/contact. Thank you for watching this Access presentation.